Well, good evening, all. What I'd like to do this evening is speak as little as possible. I passed the budget up to the legislature back in January. The budget that I spent an enormous amount of time on to the point of going line by line. And I bet right now, 186 people in the House and Senate, that not a single person, or maybe all 186, have looked at that budget line for line. The point being that we were going to work at eliminating the income tax. So they decided last weekend, they didn't like that. So the Democrats, behind closed doors with a few Republicans from the Senate, made a deal. This is the deal. We won't have a constitutional amendment to eliminate the income tax, but we will have a constitutional amendment to say that it will be 2/3 of the House and Senate if we ever raise the income tax. Now, so let me tell you the realities of life here. The income tax came in 1969. Incidentally, anybody know who brought it in?
Curtis.
Where's Curtis today?
Florida.
Yeah. You can't make it up. No, it just happens. So it came in 1969. It was raised in 1976. It was raised in 1977, 1989, and 1991. It was lowered in 1988, and it was lowered again through the sunset in 1992. Each and every time the income tax was raised, it was bipartisan. Both houses and both the Democrats and the Republicans agreed to do it together. There's a real good reason for that. Because it's cover. It's called cover. Because if they don't do it, only one house does it. The next election, they're going to get slammed. So they do it together. That's what the back door is. Now, in the 1950s, they used to have these backdoor operations. Closed room, the back room operation was filled with smoke back then. Big cigar smoking and a little liquor on the side. Nowadays, they don't have smoke, but they lock the door. Something new they've added. But the same garbage comes out of there. Energy costs. I started this in 2011. I was the only state. I was alone. There were only 1 million people trying to get a gas line in Maine. Now, you have 4 states, several million people, and it's going to get there. That horse is out of the barn, and you can't stop it. It is just moving so fast that even the legislature, as much as they try to increase your energy costs and as much as they try to stop our efforts, won't be able to stop it. Welfare for illegal immigration. We are just being overrun by gangs, people coming in with drugs. We're averaging at least 1 or 2 arrests a week. We have 3 babies born a day in the state of Maine. 3 babies born a day addicted to opiates. There's a few of them that fly into the Blueberry Gardens and the boys land and drop their drugs and off in 5 minutes. We have some of that, but we know, if we know, we can attack it. But we need the resources. But they're going to give us 3 new custodians. They won't give me the drug agents, they won't give me the judges, they won't give me the DAs, but they're going to give 3 more custodians. Now, I'll give you one more little thing and then we'll talk about the aliens. This legislature's had my budget for 5 months. Last week, and they worked all weekend long, and they did absolutely nothing. Well, I can't say absolutely nothing. They made some deals behind closed doors, but I don't know what that is. I wasn't invited. The door was locked. I wouldn't have gone anyways, because last time I went, they wouldn't let me speak. An asylee, on the other hand, is someone that's here undocumented. And then when they get here, we have to pick up the cost for at least 18 months. And every Saturday when I have my office hours, it's not unusual to have doctors nurses, physician's assistant came in and said, what are you going to do about the tuberculosis, the hepatitis C, hepatitis B, HIV, measles, that is coming in polio, that is starting to come back to our country. If you remember last year, we had this Ebola scare. One case of HIV in the state of Maine cost you $90,000 a year to treat. One case of hepatitis C to cure costs you, the taxpayer, $102,000 a year. Now, yes, I did cut services to illegals. I did. But the legislature, the Democrats, led by Justin Alfon and Mark Eves, took the money out and put it back into the illegal and general assistance. Now, people are going to say I'm heartless. Yes, I am heartless. I'm heartless because until the people of Maine are treated and get the services they need, then I can't afford to take care of other people. So I came back from the dentist, and the man had one leg. And he said, you know, Governor, if you could help me get a leg, I could get a job. So I came back to the office, I said, Holly, your first project, find this gentleman a leg. So we are compassionate people. It's just that we can't be everything to everybody and still be the poorest people in New England. Now it's a matter of the income tax. If I give you back $1.2 billion, that gives you more money to spend. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to spend it all, but Mainers, historically, we're not known for saving a lot of money, maybe 4% of our wages. So that says that 96% will be spent in the economy with a multiplier effect, roughly $5 billion impact. Maine is on a three-legged stool. Very comfortable, doesn't go forward, doesn't go backwards. You can lean a little bit sideways, but it won't tip over. And we've been there for 50 years. What we need to do is get on a bike and stop pedaling forward. So let's get rid of one leg of that stool and get on a bike. Get rid of the income tax, and we'll set our economy based on a sales tax and a property tax in the communities. The union collects a whole lot of money in union dues, and they spend it in political campaigns, and I can vouch that they spend a ton against me. They spent a ton against me. Both the teachers' unions and the public unions. It was great to wake up on Wednesday morning and see they wasted all that money. January 5th, 2011, Maine was the #1 welfare state in America. And with all the hard work we've done and all the complaining and all the nasty articles that were written by these lovely people in front, we are now #3 in the nation. We've gone from #1 to #3. In the summer months, we are the #1 state in America with second home ownership from around the nation. And some of these folks are very wealthy. I know one gentleman who comes to Maine for 3 weeks a year, and his property taxes on the summer home are $57,000 a year. And you see his shows on TV every day. He's a producer. I know several others, Duke Energy CEO, I know many very wealthy people that come to Maine, businesses, lawyers, doctors, actresses, actors that come to Maine, and we can convince them to invest in Maine. The people in Augusta, particularly in the Democratic Party, believe in the redistribution of wealth. And if this was Hollywood, Beverly Hills, I would agree with them. I wouldn't mind taking all that Tinseltown money and redistributing it to me and my wife and my friends, because there are millions of dollars there. But what they don't want to face and understand is very simply this. Those who have protected by going to other states for 6 months and a day. They're called childless adults. They're 19 to 50, and this is the sad thing. 62% of them are men. Half of them are deadbeats. I called one last week. He was working under the table because he's avoiding paying child support. He did some work for a gentleman, and he got paid $10,000. The gentleman was closing on the house, and he says, well, I want my money in cash. He said, you can't have it in cash. The lawyer said, you got to take a check. He took a check, ran to the bank. Just so happens the banker's a friend of mine. He called me up. He's going to be a guest of the state for a while. So that's how you catch it. I said, so how do you justify giving money to illegal aliens and put a waiting list for elderly people who earn and deserve the services? And the response was, well, chip away at the waiting list. Chip away. Think about that. Chip away at the waiting list. So your life is worth like a chip. I can't understand it. It's very insulting. Good public policy, I will compromise all the time, and I work very hard at compromising. For instance, I put a budget in at 5.75. I said, you know, I'll settle for 6.5 if you give me a constitutional amendment. And they said no. Now let me tell you, you elect them, and they're saying no. So all my recommendation to you is remember that in November of 2016. Because in 2016, the people of the state of Maine, and believe me, as long as I'm governor, I'll be reminding you at least twice a week that we have to get rid of the income tax or get rid of the bums that don't want you to have a staff. And because the Democrats refuse to have the people of Maine weigh in on whether or not they want an income tax or not, or what rate they're willing to pay for an income tax, I've decided that every bill that is sponsored by a Democrat will be vetoed. And that means it's got to go back up and get a 2/3 vote. And so if they won't let you have a say in your income tax, we're going to run a 2/3 government. We're working on it. I'd love nothing more than to have everything completely open and transparent, because if we had complete transparency, you would have much better government.
Where's Robert DeWitt?
Last one. It's about $250 to $300 million a year that we get chipped out of revenues in the income tax. And we got to go chase it. Now, the tax is making thieves and crooks out of our citizens. Let's get rid of the tax. Much harder not to pay the sales tax. Much harder not to pay your property tax. The income tax is very, very easy. In fact, like I said earlier, I caught somebody trying to work under the table, and he owes the state a whole lot of child support, and we're going after him. Thank you all so much.